So before we start, I had an interesting conversation. I don't see women for therapy, but this woman who's been watching for the whole year, and she called up and she said she wanted to talk. So I said, I'm not very good at doing things over the phone, but let me try. And suddenly I realized that I had made a mistake, or maybe I've changed. I don't know, but it was very, very good. It was a very good phone session. I didn't realize that I could actually listen even more intently on the phone than I could even when looking at somebody.
Visual, it was just audio?
Yeah, just audio. It was very good for me. So that was very interesting because I don't know, I had tried it 2 years ago and it was a catastrophe. So I didn't want to even try it again, but she was insistent. I said, okay, so and it was exactly 1 hour, because unlike, I guess, face to face, I can cut it off when the time has come. I don't feel the same way as when I'm with a person. It's very uncomfortable to stop them. It was much easier, but it was also a lot easier for me to concentrate. I guess I've changed. So that's just in passing, because I know that we've talked many times about the fact that we've continued Torah Nefesh with the encouragement and hope that everybody here would help others. So that's in passing, to say that I didn't think I could help women, and because I didn't want to do it personally, face to face, and then it turned out that I could do it over the phone, and it was actually very good. It was actually much better than. It's weird. It was better than when I do it face to face with men. Very interesting. So the takeaway from it wasn't this part, wasn't the fact that we change over time and maybe we can do things that we don't think we could have done some time ago. The takeaway from me was what we talked about. So she's 42, she has 6 children, and she told me that after she gave birth to her 6th child, a year and a half ago, she fell into really bad postpartum depression, and it really continued pretty much until a month before we talked. And she was on medication, and she said the medication helped her not want to die, but not beyond that. That was as far as it went. And it was very troublesome for her. She never had anything like this. In all her 5 children, she never had. And she described it that when the baby came out, it was like the steel gate fell down, like you see in castle walls, like these huge steel gates. You feel like bang, it came crashing down, and she felt completely disconnected from everything, from her life, from. So she went on to describe a lot of things and what she went through, and she went to this healer, and to this and to that. In the end, the medication helped enough that she hasn't been taking medication for about a month now. And she says the feeling of doom has not come back, but she's still not. So she described that her intellect is fine and she understands why she's been blessed, and she's thankful to Hashem, but she has no feelings at all. Just absolutely, her emotions have been shut down completely. So I listened to her for about 25 minutes. I didn't say anything. I guess it's easier even to be silent and listen to somebody when you're not looking at their face. So to me it sounded like a classic case of expectations. But expectations that have they're so under the radar that you can't see them. Like going back to what is tikkun ani, to what is the rectifying the ego. So we always talk about this, that rectifying the ego, the most important part is to fight the expectations, the entitlement, the feeling that we're entitled to A, B, C, and D. And when it doesn't happen, we're very upset at ourselves, and then eventually at Hashem. or everybody around us for not giving us what we think we're entitled to. But she's very, I mean, she has 6 children. Everybody's healthy. Everything's fine. At first, I thought she was going to tell me, like, I felt that the gate fell down, that she was going to tell me that something happened to the baby. We've discovered he's autistic, or no, I don't know, we have to deal with it. But no, everything's fine. Masha, everything's good. So it seems to me like this is a classic case of what middle-aged depression is about, or middle age in general. What is middle age? Middle age is when you've pretty much received all that you're going to receive.
Age 44, I just read it. That's the age across the world.
Somewhere between 40 and 50. Every person's a little different. But you've received all that Hashem is going to give you. And Hashem is now telling you, from now on, it's up to you. You're not going to get anything for free anymore.
Is that what you're doing? Who's defining that?
That's what middle age is.
What?
Why are you so...
Does everybody agree with?
I don't know. Everybody hasn't stopped. It's
We'll find out.
amazing.
No, Sada. Baruch Hashem, health He's giving me, and so on. But from age 40 and on, you can't keep throwing junk into the machine.
That's true.
It's up to you now. From age 40 and on, your body doesn't regenerate, deteriorates. Everything. From age 40 and on,
That's not true. They found that the brain regenerates even
if a
It's
person
old
does
age,
something, it's up to you.
and also all the cells regenerate.
Up to you.
If you put good stuff in.
If you work on it, if you're going to work on it. Before that, it's for free. And most people, some people, unfortunately, from age 20, they know that it's not for free. But most people in the world, let's say 80%, 90%, have it pretty easy until age 40, somewhere in the 40s. Same thing with you got married and you had children and you have a good relationship with your spouse. And it reaches a certain plateau. And it's good. It's not, I'm not complaining. But like she said, I'm cut off emotionally. Because it's like a feeling of this is all there is. You can't say that to yourself because you're a yid and you're very thankful to Hashem for everything you've received. So you can't say, is that all there is? But it occurred to me as she was speaking that that's what she's saying. She's repeating that in different variations. That the 6th child, what she was waiting for, was a great revelation that didn't come with the other 5. I mean, the other 5, she was like building her family. And I guess at the 5th already, she hit a plateau. And the 6th was like, it was anticlimactic. It was like, bang, everything comes, this gate comes crashing down. This gate that says, you know what? Another child is just not going to do it for you. Nothing happened. The birth was the birth. You went back to being you, and everything is the same. Where are you going to take what people call that oomph from? It's not going to come to you now for free anymore. It used to be that there were new things to see, there were new things to do, there were new experiences to be had. But it's over. So what? So now you just coast for the next 30, 40, 50, 80 years? You can't see that. A person can't live with it. So you go into one of 2 modes. One mode is, which most people go into, it's a sort of light depression. Light depression says, well, I'm not ready to die because I enjoy everything I have. But at some point when it's going to become too difficult to carry my body and it's going to hurt more than it's worth it, yeah, okay, I'm ready to die. And people live in a sort of, keep going state. But, it's not bad, so it's better than... And so they're living very carefully. They won't take risks. They won't do anything out of the ordinary, because who jumps off of bridges? Who goes bungee jumping? People in their 20s. If you see a person who's over 40 jumping off a bridge, well, usually he's trying to commit suicide. But if he's not, so what are they doing? They're being not rational. They're being careless, reckless, whatever you want. Within limits, of course, because most people don't get killed when they jump off a bridge with a bungee rope. But they're looking for something from the outside to somehow wake them up. And so people start experimenting with drugs and experimenting with this. And again, little experiments. They won't do something really radical.
In their 50s, you're saying?
They get older, in their
I
60s.
got that to look forward.
So sometimes you see a small percentage of people like, we don't have any more responsibilities really, because we took care of the kids, they're grown, they're married, they have their own lives. We can go do something crazy if we want to. So either do it together, do it separately. But it's doing something crazy, which is, again, it's like somehow something on the outside is going to give me my emotions back, it's going to give me my excitement back, it's going to give me all these things back. So what are they missing? Is there another option? Or do you really just have to sort of cruise your way into the grave? Sort of put it on cruise control and just wait until the car slides, until you reach the bottom of the hill. Is that what it's about?
Oh, good.
So we talked about this, and I told her, I think that, there's this thing, Sarah Esther Chris put it up a few months ago, and it really caught me. She said, she put something up, I guess she's going through it now. So she's 42, I think, 41. So she put something up that said, middle age is when the universe taps you on your shoulder and says, I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
You better get your act together. But we got our act together a long time ago. What do you mean, get my act together? Most people who are at least a little bit conscious of who they are and what they've done know that by age 44 or 45 or whatever, I'm going to continue doing what I did. It's not going to get that much better. I might get a little bit better at what I do. Okay, I won't write 2,000 words a day, I'll write 2,200. Okay. I'm not going to suddenly out of nowhere be able to do stuff that I haven't been able to do until now. That's not going to happen. My act is together. It's as together as it's going to get, in other words. Whatever it is, it is. And that's middle age. That's what it means. That you've seen it, you've done it, this is what it looks like, and the most you can do is preserve it. Improve it a little bit here and there. So what's the option? So I don't think that that's what the universe is doing. Especially if you put Hashem into the equation, don't call it the universe, call it Hashem. So Hashem finally has a vessel. Think about it this way. He invested in you for 45 years. In my case, 48. In your case, a little bit more or a little bit less. It doesn't matter. He invested in me this many years. He really invested. He wants dividends now. What will the dividends look like? That I will continue doing what I did during the investment? It's called growth. There's a growth period. But then there's supposed to be a time when the company reaches its maturity and it gives off steady dividends. During the growth period, it really grows because people are...
All right, 33 minutes.
It's only 33 minutes left. So during the growth period, Hashem put a lot of stuff into me. He put marriage into me. He put children into me. He put a job into me. He put this and that, and a lot of things into me. So it grows very, very quickly. And then it reaches a certain plateau. So then it's called, what are they called? The growth and the other type. When a company reaches maturity, it's got a name, and then it just gives its dividends. It doesn't really grow anymore because it can't grow anymore. I don't remember what they call it. Growth and Don't remember. But that's like the middle age of a company. You finished growing it, and now it's just supposed.
Plateau?
It's a plateau. I don't remember what it's called though. They have a name for it in business, in the investment world.
It matures.
Immature. There's a name for it. Anyway. Closing. Forgot. It's a nice word because it sort of captures the essence of this whole thing. So that's in something that's not alive. But something that's alive, if I invested in it, what do I expect it to do? I expect it to continue not just growing. I mean, if you've reached maturity, this is when I expect you to explode in creativity and things. And this is when I expect you to just go off the charts.
So that's when most marriages break up lately.
So, right, so what's going on? Why is it that people are only thinking about conserving at best, maybe improving a little bit, but can't think about...
Because they're worried about old age.
So this, I talked to this woman on, I think it was Sunday. No, it was Wednesday of last week. And last night, I don't know whoever watched the shir from Rostov. So I didn't catch it at first, but then somebody talked about it in one of the WhatsApp groups that I'm on. And somebody talked about it and said, you know, the last two shiurim have been that the Rav has been speaking about killing himself. Which is very interesting. About a person, the tzaddik, killing himself. What is this?
But it
It's
does
Avram,
doesn't
when you heard the one about Avraham was going to sacrifice Isaac because he wanted to get rid of the Isaac in him. He felt that he had din in him. He felt that he had judgment in him. And Isaac is the representative of judgment in the world. So he wanted that. He was looking for it. Chas v'shalom, he didn't want it. I'm talking about spiritually. And then last night, he suddenly said, what's a real chassid? A foolish chassid, a chassid shoteh, he thinks that he's going to receive the reward after 120. But that's when he'll receive it. That's when you really get it. He says a real chassid, he says there's a mimer from the Rebbe Rashab, the word the Rebbe Rashab in Rostov. I don't know what mimer he means, but it's probably not too hard to find it. A real chassid wants it now. That's what the Rebbe tried to instill in us. That Mashiach now. Now, don't think about it after 120. And the Rebbe tried to get people to explode. He said, I'm trying to get you, we've reached middle age.
Mm-hmm.
We've matured all there is to mature. We've done everything there is to do. Don't try to conserve. Don't try to live backwards. Don't continue trying to conserve the past. You've got to open yourself up to something new. So last night he was talking about going to Brazil and to the Amazon. If anybody heard that?
Where there's poisonous snakes.
Poisonous snakes and piranhas and cannibals and I don't know what else he invented there. When I thought about it this morning, I thought that, what is he talking about? He's talking about the fact that 30, 40 years ago, his wife received a letter from the Rebbe telling them to stay put in the Kfar Chabad and not move to Batayin. So I think he feels that got to kill that Isaac. I got to kill already. That's like,
He wants to break out or something.
He wants to break out. This is what it sounds like. He's like, why am I? It's very nice. I mean, it's almost like, wow, you mean you're willing to not sit for 18 hours a day with your sparring? That's a thought. For him, that's like, for any of us to sit 18 hours a day with sparring would be, we wouldn't last one day. We wouldn't last half a day. But he's been doing this for, 55 years now?
Well,
More than 55. It's about 58, 59 years. Every single day. And the amount that he learns every day is like, not very few people can do that, and he's been doing it for such a long time. He's very creative. And in the end, I think he feels, but I'm missing out on the people. From time to time, I come here. I think he felt good going to Rostov. Suddenly he felt like he felt good going to Bnei Brak suddenly, a place where I don't think he's taught in 60 years. I don't know how long. And suddenly there's this feeling that, wait a minute, there's opportunities. So that's just as an aside, but to go back to what I talked with this woman, she gave me, as we were talking, she gave the best definition that I can think of to what needs to change. And I put it in like very Western terms. I couldn't think of how to put it in Jewish terms. So I was almost like, you've got to open yourself. You're not working for yourself anymore. You're working for Hashem now. I mean, you have it. You've got it. Okay, you have it all.
Avram's life divided.
Okay, right. After the Akedah, he starts his real shluchus in the world. What was his real shluchus? In Beersheba. He lived in Beersheba and he opened the Eshel, the restaurant in the desert. And we talked a little about it. It's an amazing thing, this thing that he did. I mean, for the next 40 years, basically, he just has Farbrengens. And this is what he does. That's what an Eshel is. Farbrengens with mattresses so that whoever wants to go to sleep goes to sleep, and get up and the Farbrengen's still going. And Avram's still talking. And they're singing and whatever. But, so I sort of said, you're like a gun for hire. Hashem has made you into what you are. So now what are you going to do with it? I mean, I know you have responsibilities at home and this. I'm not telling you should throw it away. That's not. You're not 60 yet, where you're done with your responsibilities, but you're a responsible person. You know how to do this. You know how to figure out your home. You know how to figure out your relationship with your husband. You know all this. So what's missing? The shluchus. What are you here for? This was the foundation. And now that you're built, you can be useful. So she said it great. She said, what you're telling me is, I gave another example. I said, you're not a gunfire in the sense that any idiot that comes by and says, come do this for me, that's what you should do. That's not the sign that somebody comes and asks for it. You have to fit the bill. You have to be somebody who has the talents to be able to do what they're asking for help with. So if anything, people just tell me anything, come help me lift this 100 kilogram box up. It's not for me. Why is it not for me? Because they'll have to lift me afterwards. If they tell me, come learn Russian, I doubt I'm that talented in languages that I would be a good shaliach in Russia. I can't. That's not for me. So I said, you know what your talents are. You already know what they are. You know what Hashem has given you, because that's exactly what He's done with you for the last 45 years. He's built you. You know what you are. So now, and then I gave her another example, and then she hit upon it. I gave the example, but I couldn't get the words around it. Like I couldn't define it properly. I said to her, like when you have, somebody opens up a gemach, and they say, no, she said it before I even gave the example. She said, what you're saying is, I should become a gemach. That's what you're saying. That after age 40, what you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to see yourself as a gemach.
I like that.
Okay? And then I gave the example that a gemach has to be very careful not to make a very small mistake. It's a small mistake in the thinking because it makes sense, but it ruins the whole purpose of the gemach. How do you measure a gemach's success? So they measure it all the same way. They say, I had 100,000 shekels in the gemach. I loaned out this year 1 million. How did I do it? Because every month, 100,000 went out and came back. So altogether, my turnover was 1 million shekels. So that's a good gemach. if I loaned out 2 million, wow, that's already a great gmach. There's gmachs that with 100,000 in Eretz Yisrael, they do 5 million a year. It's pretty impressive. That means it's incredible turnover. And a lot of people are being helped. So how many people did I help for 5 million? Probably 60, 100, I don't know how many people. It's a lot of work. And it worked. And we got the money back, and it's still circulating, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. And this is really successful. I said, but that's incorrect. Because sometimes there is one person that needs 100,000 for a year. And so your whole turnover is going to be 100,000. But if you're the gemach that can give it, meaning you have the right amount, you have the ability to give it for 12 months, you should give it. So that's what it means to look at your talents and not at what they're achieving, as it were. It's not how many people or not. That's a real gemach, that I don't look. I'm not trying to measure how much impact I had, because I don't know how to measure it correctly. Because I might measure it based on how many people I helped, where the real point was to help this one person. And I didn't know, because I can't know. I can't see the whole picture. Again, you could argue this the other way around. Maybe I'm wrong. But what I took away from it is that you have to become a gemach. You have to become what do you call it? I think for
Grand Central Station. That's what I am.
the Grand Central Station is your responsibilities as a mother, a grandmother. That's not the gemach part. The gemach part, which is why that's why it's so strong, is that it's random, as it were. It's
You don't know who's coming.
You don't know. That's what that thing that people jump off of a bridge for, that they go to the Amazon for, that they do this, they do that. That's like trying to insert some kind of excitement, some kind of randomness into your life. So you can do it without that. You don't have to go to the Amazon for it. You don't have to jump off a bridge for it. You can just say, whoever needs me for whatever I'm good at, I'm willing to devote time to that. And amazing things happen. The moment you open up yourself to these things. So all this was a very tricky way to introduce the idea that the world needs you.
What was her
The world
response?
needs everybody here. And if you do it by phone, if you do it by whatever, do it as a gemach.
What was this woman's response?
She didn't call back. That's always a good sign.
She was cured.
She was cured. I don't know if she was cured. But she was very excited as we talked. I felt that we reached something that was meaningful to me, at least. And I've seen a while back, Rav Yitzchak told me, you should go wherever they tell you to come teach, wherever they tell you to go teach. Stop worrying about so we have some money in the Galei Nai account from America, from the book sales. Use it to fly wherever you want.
To you said that?
Yeah.
Who said that?
I haven't done anything with it yet because there haven't been any opportunities.
Make them.
No, I said I need something to work on it. Like if it would come, I would do it. But that was an interesting. When he said that, he came to me and said that like suddenly out of nowhere. He said, I was thinking about it in Shabbos. I said, you need more. You need to get out more.
How's your wife feel about that?
No, she was very happy. She also thought it was a good idea.
As long as it doesn't interfere with our class.
Okay? Because you have duties, you have responsibilities. Okay? You don't give up the responsibilities. You put it in between. You find out, and when you open yourself up that way, I think that incredible things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you suddenly find excitement because now Hashem is finally getting dividends from the tool that he built for so many years. Whatever this tool can be used for, every person.
You can argue a shliach like that when they're 21.
100%. The Rebbe's shita was,
Yeah.
don't need to build him up for 40 years. He'll
Yeah.
learn on the job.
Right.
The Rebbe's Shita is completely revolutionary. It's from day one, you're already a gemach.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's an amazing thing. And the Rebbe even told this to people. He said that they asked him, "Why, Rebbe? Why don't you send your shluchim first to learn in university? They should learn psychology. They should learn social
Get
services.
ruined.
They should learn this."
So then
He
what
said by
would
the
you
time they
say?
finish, they'll be too old to go on shluchas.
Yeah.
So they'll go. They'll figure it out. If they don't figure it out, there's other people they can talk to.
So what kind of middle age does that have?
It doesn't. From the beginning.
I'm sure people have times of burnout.
Obviously. So there I have to think about what I haven't talked to a shliach who's burned out, so I don't know. But I'm sure that there's a middle age there too, because at some point
Yes.
you've built it already. It's built, it's functioning, and then it gets stuck. Because it can't think about the next stage. Because
So often they give it over to their kids
every
at that
organism
point.
wants to preserve. And that's the problem, that we want to preserve. And the Rebbe was like, stop preserving.
Yeah.
We're not. Stop preserving. we're not in the jam business. Stop making preserves. Think about how do you break onto something new.
So if you have confronting challenges as you grow older, so you should say thank you, God.
The challenges are usually, that's what I'm saying. The challenges give you a feeling of a burden, of something that's fallen on you. And there are things that are going to fall on you. There's no question, because they've fallen on you your whole life. It's not going to stop now.
No, things that make you change course, though.
If
Have
it
to
makes you
change course.
change course on purpose, yeah, that doesn't feel very well. But if you open yourself up,
No, it doesn't
And
feel
some-
good, but maybe that's where the gift is, you know.
of course, but it's because you didn't open yourself up.
Mm.
So if you
That's
don't
why it
open
came
yourself
to
up,
you, you're
I guess Hashem is going to give it to you in a different way. Because He needs you to carry something more.
Mhm.
So if you're not willing to open yourself up to it,
You also discussed last week about the creating of new lines. It
Mhm.
sounds like, so
right. So
So this-
that's the end.
does it
of-
have to start at middle age? I wouldn't.
So I think that what we talked about is that the reason you don't start something new is because there's still hope for the old. You still want to preserve the old. You want to continue with what you've been doing until now. And here, I guess if you hit this thing called middle age, or you hit this depression, then what's being told, what you're telling yourself is, I have to start something new. That's really what's going on. And again, this is not what we call chronic depression. Chronic depression is a different story altogether, because that people suffer from. It's probably
Before that.
more physical than anything else, and it's just a handicap. Like if a person has I don't know, can't see or can't walk, whatever it is, it's a handicap. And you have to figure out how to live with a handicap. It's a different story. It's not that simple to work. Handicaps you work around. You can't really fix them. And we don't know why one person carries this one, another person carries that one. We don't know. So it's not that easy. It's not like going to go away just because it goes away. It doesn't just go away.
Is that what it is? You look to walk around with the depression?
You have to figure out how to live a life.
That's
you
it.
know.
Not to assume
Yeah,
that it's going to be
the
lifted
minute-
or go away. I mean,
No, you can believe that eventually the handicaps become so secondary that you don't notice it. But it's always a challenge. It's not. One of the big revelations that I had
that's what you
last
tell
week.
someone?
Look, if they've been having it since age 15,
Uh,
It's physical.
50? I don't know, 15.
no, 50 is different. 50 is different. 50 sounds like middle-aged.
Right. So that's a handicap they'll
No.
have to live with?
No, I'm saying chronic
Only
depression.
Earlier.
So do you believe in medicating them?
As a last
If that's what's going to
resort,
help,
I think.
yeah. And in the same way that person who can't walk needs crutches. There's no, I don't know how you can. You could try without, but it's not pleasant.
A few years ago, when we had the class on anger, depression, and anxiety, You were pretty strong on not using medication for depression in that class. I don't know if you feel differently now or if the class was on a different point.
I
of
don't
it.
remember if that we were talking about chronic depression or about depression suddenly occurs in the middle of a person's life.
Okay, I don't know.
If it's sudden onset, they never suffered from it. And I would tend to think that, like most things, it can be treated without getting to it. But if you need to get medication, then you need to get medication. I mean, you can't come to the place where you can't think anymore. You can't come to the place where life is meaningless, because it's very hard to work from there. I mean, you're cut off from yourself. So how are you gonna? If a person is in such pain that they can't do, let's say, maybe a good example. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure if this is exactly the experience, but a person has very strong pain in one of their limbs, and the osteopath, the person really understands how the body is built, says you have to do these exercises. It's going to take half a year, but you're going to be able to get your life back. But they're in such pain that they can't do the exercises. So you got to take pain medication, even though you're going to get hooked on it. I mean, you're going to become addicted to it. Okay, but during that time you'll be able to work. Eventually, you'll also work off the addiction. But you have to weigh these things carefully to say what's my course of action to move forward. Sometimes you have to take something.
Okay, I remember it was on past, present, and future, because we were talking about anger in the past, depression in the present, and anxiety
Yeah, so it's more present.
in the future.
Mhm.
And I think the point was that this learning and these tenets were strong enough to work with a person with depression.
Right.
And I find that pretty true.
Pretty true. Not for
But-
everybody.
But if you're saying that if a person has chronic depression,
It's
that
I think it's
they
different.
need
Right.
both.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Because we're talking about something that's already memorized in the system. It's not like it didn't just suddenly appear now.
And even medication, from what I hear, takes a long time to kick in if they've had a depression for a long time.
Right.
So,
Well,
use both.
There's results vary. I mean, it
Right.
depends if they hit the right medication right away. I learned this last week that Jordan Peterson has been suffering from depression since his teens. I didn't know that.
I don't know who Jordan
And he's a
Peterson-
very, very productive person. So what's going on? So he's learned how to get around it.
Compensate.
To a great degree. Is he now he says he's cured from it, but that's a different story altogether. It's got nothing to do with medication. It's nothing to do with psychological therapy. But you have to see people, Reb Nachman, who suffered tremendously from depression. You have to see people that did something with their lives to be able to understand that even when you carry a handicap around, you shouldn't give up. You can still do something. So that was another thing that came out of another conversation I had with a young man last week. And I also thought it was very opening for me. It was very eye-opening for me to see this, that I realized how much I wished I had heard this when I was 25, let's say, or 24. And we talked a lot about the difference between emunah and bitachon, between faith and confidence. And one of the things that was very, very helpful for him was to understand that faith means an overall feeling that life is good, an overall optimism, that life can be fulfilling. And we're going to get to that some more today, hopefully, in a moment. That faith is in the background, if you want. And I said, we say we believe in Hashem. So how do we say Hashem? What do we mean when we say Hashem? Hashem, like in English and German and all these languages, good. We believe in the good. And good means fulfilling. Fulfilling not in the sense that I get to eat ice cream. Fulfilling in the sense that what there is will be used. What there is will be fulfilled, will be manifest, will be accomplished. So whatever gifts Hashem gave me, I'm not going to go out of this life without using them. That's a general feeling, that life can be fulfilling. But bitachon is charting a course. And I went to get an echocardiogram yesterday. I didn't go for the echocardiogram. I went because my doctor told me, you're at this age, go do it. Yeah, that's what I went to. Turns out I went to talk to the technician. He's a nice guy from Texas. He came about tshuva. He lives in Eretz Yisrael. He's married, he has children. So we talked, and he said, so you're a Lubavitcher, right? You want to hear my Chabad stories? So of course, that's why he came. I don't care about the So he told me a few Chabad stories and this and that. And we so obviously the Mishichist thing came up and things, and I told him what Rav Stein told me, and I've told you, dozens of times, because it's one of the things that left the most impression on me about the Rebbe.
Tell us again.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
again, because I can't hold back. It's just one of those things.
What, Rabbi who?
Rabbi Steinsaltz told me about the Rebbe.
Deanstown.
Yeah.
I guess he had a close enough relationship that he heard this from the Rebbe in some way. He said that before the Rebbe had a stroke, he said the Rebbe had plans for the next 30 years. So here's a Jew who's 90 years old, and he has plans for 30 years. He has plans. I'm not talking about, he said, detailed plans of what he's going to do. So obviously when you plan 30 years in the future, you're not planning every moment, but he was planning pretty much every week. It's like a weekly schedule, monthly schedule maybe. But he's got plans. This is what he wants. So you need faith to do that. You have to feel that life is worth planning. It's worth trying to fulfill. But you have to have a tremendous amount of bitachon to actually make the plan. To actually think, what are you going to do? And you're not the balabait. You're not the owner of the house here. You're not the owner of your life. You don't know if you're going to get to do it or whether it's going to turn out this way or turn out another way. You don't know any of these things. But your duty, in terms of confidence, is to do that, is to make that plan. And not to live day by day, just, that's very nice to live day by day. In terms of your food, maybe, things like that. But in terms of what do I want to fulfill, what do I want to accomplish, you need to have a plan. Again, nobody's promising you that you'll get to carry it out in full or even in part. But if you don't have the plan, you're not going anywhere. You're just adrift somewhere in the middle of the Pacific. And whatever comes, comes. So you can do that with yourself in terms of Gmilus Chesed. You as a Gemach, it's fine. You can do that. And yet, you still need to have the backbone. And the backbone is the bitachon. Even it sounds the same. Backbone and bitachon is almost the same word. So you need to have the backbone to set a course, to decide that I want to go somewhere. And I said to myself, I wish I would have heard this when I was 20, actually. Because I had a plan. I had something of a plan that a 20-year-old can have. I don't know how advanced it is. But when I wasn't able to attain it, really everything went haywire. I lost all confidence. Nobody told me, nobody's promising you that you can carry out the plan. You might have to start anew. I never heard about this idea that you might be following a course and something happens, it's a shipwreck, there's nothing left over, and you want to hang on to a straw, but there's not even a straw to hang on to. And now you got to start something entirely new. So people do it because, life is, like we learned last two times, lekol hachaim yesh bitachon. Everything that's alive has confidence, because that's what it means to be alive. So you have some way that you build something to build yourself out of the wreckage. But if you know beforehand that that's a possibility, then you treat it. It's. I don't think it's as catastrophic. You don't look at it in the same way. You know that these things. Okay, nobody's promising you, because what happened after that was I didn't have a plan. After I got shipwrecked at 24, and for a year and a half I wasn't in this world. So when I came back, I was afraid to build a plan. And truth is, till this day, I'm afraid to build a plan. Because what if I'm shipwrecked again? What if my life...
Is that really how you think it? Where you're...
It's very hard to...
You think what if?
It's like getting on the plane after you've been in a plane crash.
Right.
It's getting in a car after you've been in a car crash. There's a trauma from it. I made something of a plan before, but nobody told me.
Do you really believe what if this will happen to you? Is that really what you believe?
It's not only what I believe; it's like what I feel. It's like this might end at any moment, and it's almost like you're tempting fate if you and you don't hear this, that Hashem says to you, this is what you're supposed to do. Don't be worried about the fact that this line will end and some new line will start. Something that I heard a long time ago. I don't know if it's true. I'm saying so many things about things I don't know anything about. Luckily, I'm not talking about what I learned about the endocrine system, which I really don't understand. But I heard a lot. I used to have an uncle who was a sailor, not a real sailor, like in 1930s, 20s and 30s. He went all over the world. They lived in Eretz Yisrael, and he ran away, and he went to be a sailor. So he picked up all kinds of nonsense. One of the things he picked up was palmistry.
Yeah.
So he didn't pick it up from the stuff you read on you can get in a bookstore. He picked it up from the old sailors who really know how this works. Yeah. Anyway, so he told me something very interesting. He looks at my lifeline, and he says, "Oh, this is so unfortunate." Why is it unfortunate? Because the lifeline is supposed to go all the way around your thumb. It's the one that goes around your thumb. It's a big line that goes around your thumb.
Really? And if it don't?
So he says very unfortunate. It only goes halfway around. So if this is 120 years, they say, so you're gonna somewhere around your 50s, check out.
Oh, that was very helpful. Very
That's what he
helpful.
learned on the ships. So his son, my cousin, who was the first person I really learned Pneumius with.
Nice.
So he came and looked at Abba, what are you saying? Don't you know that if the line is continued by something parallel to it, that's the same, it's a continuation?
Nice.
He said, I never heard about that. He says,
Mm-hmm.
it's written in the Zohar. Or it's written or not written, I don't know.
What? That's what the Rebbe writes on Sarah in this parsha, but
That,
not well versed enough in it. Exactly that.
Okay.
That how the continuation will. She made sure there was permanence to it. It's in the first pages of the Chayenu. So.
Okay, good.
so this idea is,
Just-
so it's a very similar idea to what we're talking about. They said one line is going to end, but then something else is going to pick it up.
I mean, we learned about Hebrew.
Just like your
Makes
cups.
sense.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So the same thing happens. I guess it is a real principle from the Zohar. He didn't say it's Stam, I guess. I don't know.
It's real handy.
And you see how different it is from the common wisdom. The common wisdom says, well, this is a lifeline. If it ends, it ends. That's it. And comes the Torah and says, no, because you have a mission from Hashem, that's not at all necessarily the case. And where one line ended, a new one can pick up. And it's in parallel. It's something new. You're going to have to go through a period of shipwreck. It's true.
So how do you know when it's time to change course?
You're shipwrecked.
Yeah, you have no choice.
You said
The other
you
one's
pick up
gone.
No, you said you could pick up your same plan though.
Oh, it's a different plan. It's going to be a
Same
different
goals?
plan. No, maybe it's different goals. Maybe even your character has changed so much because of the shipwreck
Obviously.
that you might be talented in other fields that you
You
weren't.
said when you were that young though, you wish someone told you.
I wish
to
someone had told me,
pick up another
had worked with
plan,
me,
though?
yeah, on picking up something
At that
else
age, you may not have
and
listened.
saying.
No,
In
it
the-
stays in your
In the
psyche,
end, the
it
person who
stays
picked
in
me up
you.
was Rav. 'Cause
Right,
he
and
met me
you've mentioned
after I was sick, and then he sort of brought me back and said, "Okay, your mission in life is to write this stuff." So he gave me
So you
something
were told
which
what
I never
direction.
thought I would do, and it wasn't interesting to me even. I mean, it was interesting, but not sitting
You're still
right.
having trouble writing it.
What? I'm still having trouble writing it. See, but he forced me like to do something, not entirely like. But if it was up to me, like I guess that's when you coach people. That's part of what you need to be able to do, is to take them through these. Work with them on the past traumas. Why are you not planning properly? I'm not talking about why you're not executing properly. That's because you may be ADD. I don't know. You might be something else.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to work with somebody. Pay somebody to work with. And I think I told you this a long time ago that I learned about 10 years ago that if I really want to be productive, I have to have somebody with me. If I'm alone, I'll always drift off. I can't hold my attention on something when I'm alone, unless it's like a book or something that's interactive at some level, that's giving me instead of me giving it. But this thing of working with somebody on the trauma of past failures it seems to be very essential, and that's really what the kav is about. It's about being robust. It's about having this backbone where even if your back breaks, you figure out a new way to walk. You figure out a new way to do things. And no matter how strong the catastrophe, there's got to be a way to build a new line parallel to where you were. A new something, I think we even talked about it, that there's a production company called New Line Cinema. I don't know what they meant in the world, but New Line is like, I've got a new line. I've got a new line of work. I've got a new line. Okay. So now let's, for a few minutes at least, see the Zohar that opens chapter 5. So until now, it's been like,
What page in the book is that? Do you know?
it's Samach Vav, chapter 5. It's the beginning of chapter 5. So the topic of confidence is elucidated in the Zohar in the beginning of Parashat Vayera. Va'era, not Vayera like last
Oh,
week,
yeah, sure.
but the third,
These two.
the second,
Yeah, no, not that one.
the second parsha in Shmos. And in Chassidus, whenever it's discussed, and not just in Chassidus, the Bechaye, when in his duties of the heart, he starts with the same verse. He just doesn't have the Zohar on it, or he doesn't have the complete Zohar on it. He has partial, and he discusses a lot of the same points. But in the Zohar, it's just very. It's a very dense discourse on this topic of confidence, and all the Hasidic essays on confidence start with this Zohar. Everybody, starting from the Mittler Rebbe, he has in his Biurei Zohar, in his essays on the Zohar, on Vayera, most of it is dedicated to this mimer. So the Zohar says, how does it start? It starts with trust in Havaya unto forever, Adei Ad, which the best translation I could come up with this morning was unto forever. For in Kahavaya, this is the only time in all the Tanakh that the two names come together. Yud Kei Havaya. So the first two letters of Hashem's name, and then the full four letters. Ki Yud Kei Havaya is the everlasting rock. Ki B'Kahavaya Tzur Olamim.
And this is Yeshayahu?
Into Yeshayahu 26:4.
Oh.
So the Zohar says, I'll read it in Hebrew, and it will translate a little bit. So so this is from Sephardi Zohar. You should know this is something a lot of Ashkenazim don't know this. In the Sephardi world, you don't say Rabbi, you say Ribi. Why is that? I think it's something in Aramaic, but I'm not 100% sure. So in the Talmud, they'll say sometimes Rabbi, but most of the time Sephardi Chacham will say Ribi. It's a little bit like in Chabad, the old Chassidim won't say Admor, they say, what do they say? They don't put a cholam on the vav, they don't say Admor. What do they say? Anybody heard them? Admur. You say it with a kubutz, with a shuruk. Sorry, it's Admur Harayatz, not Admor Harayatz.
That was
It's
just an
Moreno.
American
It's going on
accent.
the word Moreno, so it's, right?
It's old.
Oh,
I checked it from a long time ago.
What is bizarre?
that's just
In any case.
explaining Ribi.
So Ribi Abba Patach, so this is a Sephardi pronunciation
I
of.
don't see it in the chapter 5 here, that this.
Yeah, because there's no nikud there. But in my page there is.
What, you're on page Samach Vav, it starts,
Uh-huh.
Ribi?
So he starts on the bottom. See, oh,
Maybe
he didn't
'cause it
bring
rhymes
that's
with
from
Ribi.
Rabbi Abba. He just didn't bring who it's from. So we're reading
I
from-
see.
So Rabbi Abba Patach, Pitchu v'Hashem adayad ki v'ka Hashem tzur alamim. Bitchu v'Hashem, so trust in Hashem. Kol bnei alma bayan litakfa be'bekut shabrichu. All the people of the world are required to strengthen themselves. There's no good way to say it in English. It's a reflexive verb. Litatzem, litakfa. To take strength from, to become strong with Kuchabrichu, with the Blessed Holy One. Ulemeheve rachtzanu dilhon bei, and they should put, and that their trust should be in Him. So this is a normative statement. Normative, it means it's trying to normalize it. It's trying to tell you how to act. It's not a description. It should be. It should be this way, but it's not. It's a call to action. That if you want to be strong, not if you want to, that you have a duty to strengthen yourself. You have a duty to stand up. You have a duty to have a backbone. It's a requirement. It's what it means to be alive. Iachi, so I'm reading, there's no translation here yet. So Iachi, if so, Mawadeyad. So why does it say Bitchu b'Hashem adeyad? Have trust in Hashem. And I translated it again as unto forever. Until forever. But what does adeyad mean, says the Zohar? What does this mean, until forever? What's this forever you're talking about? So what would you say if I told you that it's forever? So what's the sphere that's forever?
That's
Netzach. So right away we have this connection between confidence and Netzach. But he's going to say something deeper. So he says, Ela begin dehe tukva devarnash be'atar de'iu kiyuma v'kishura dechola ve'ikrei ad. He says, what does this mean? It means that if you want to be strong, you have to insert yourself, you have to be connected to a place that sustains everything, and that place is called Ad. That's its name. Adei Ad means if you want to have bitachon, if you want to have confidence, you have to sort of wedge yourself into this place of connection and sustainment for everything. What's this place? Remember the Torah Academy? So what's connect? Which sphere is about connections?
Yisod.
Yeah, because in the Torah Academy that's communications. It's mamish. How do you say communications in Hebrew? Tikshoret. That's what he says. Kishura dechola. It connects everything together. What's the idea? The idea is that Yesod, the foundation, receives from all the higher sfirot, and it's called a kola. It's called a kolel. It's something that is inclusive of everything. It brings everything into it, and then it gives it to Malchus, which is a second kolel. It's a second inclusive force. And so this place is called, Zohar doesn't usually tell us the names of Sfirot. It's very rare that it does. It always has some kind of beautiful allegory, simile, some kind of metaphor to describe each of the sefirot. And it does it on purpose because it says, if I just give you the name of it, so that's generic. But I want to give you a description that fits here. I'm trying to give you the sense of what the Sefira is doing here. So this place called Yesod is going to, it sustains everything, it connects everything. And it's called Ad. What does it mean? Ad I thought meant until. He says, no, you don't know Tanakh well enough. I'm going to teach you now a verse, says the Zohar, and you'll see that Ad has another meaning that you never thought about. What do you mean you never thought about it? If you learn Gemara, you think about it. If you don't think about it. What's the verse? This is V'al Kmo, and this is what's been taught by the sages, Kimada Tamar, as it's been said, Ba'boker Yochal Ad. When Yaakov Avinu blesses Benjamin, what does he say? Binyamin Ze'ev Yitraf, that Benjamin is like a wolf who devours in the morning, Ula'erev Yochal Ad, Ba'boker Yochal Ad, Ula'erev, I don't remember what it is, but in the morning he eats Ad.
Eats until what?
Sustainable?
No.
Pray
Okay.
is sometimes translated
How?
as pray.
Pray.
But
The
I
Ad,
don't know if that's how you
so
would translate
well, you said
it.
sustain. So the Ad here is something that is, you call it pray, but another way of saying it is that sustain. It's interesting you said that right. It was to sustain. It's something that nourishes. It's a source of nourishment.
He eats till nourishment?
He eats the nourishment.
Oh, so he takes what he needs.
No, he said, what is that a simile for? Usually it's explained in the Gemara. It's explained. It's talking about the mizbeach. It's talking about the altar, and the altar is constantly eating the sacrifices. But don't think that the sacrifices are being eaten just to consume them. They're not just being consumed by the fire. What are they doing? They're nourishing the world. This means if you eat, eat to be nourished. If you're going to consume something, consume it to be nourished. So the altar works that way. That what there is to eat on the altar, the sacrifices. What happened when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed in the Second Temple? This young princess from the Herod's household, one of the rich families of Jerusalem, and she came at the end of Masechet Chulin, if you recall correctly. No, we just learned in Tamid. I think at the end of Tamid.
Miriam Bas Bilga,
Right.
who said
Right. Lucas.
She was from the Kohen family.
But they were the rich. They were tzdukim. So she cursed the altar. And she says, "Ad matai ta mechalem hamonam shel Yisrael?" How long will it be before you stop consuming the wealth of the Jewish people? Because what did she see the altar is? It's a waste of...
Who
It's
said
throwing your
that
money
God
away.
redeemed her?
And
Who
the
said that?
Rebbe redeemed her by
Right.
saying that look at this person. She was married to a non-Jew and still she cared so much
Right.
for the suffering of the Jewish people.
Right.
Took her out of wherever
The
after
Rebbe pulls
2,000
her
years.
right out of-
Who gave that explanation?
The Rebbe.
The Rebbe was the
No,
one
but
who
he
did
himself said, I pulled her out of
No,
I guess it was
it's-
why-
the who, right? His interest.
So nobody ever said that the interpretation before.
Amazing.
So
Jacobson said that?
Saved her soul, yeah.
no, he said
the
that
Rebbe,
by giving this new interpretation that she still cared enough. But what was she saying? She was saying this is a waste of your money. You're bringing all these sacrifices. It cost a fortune.
Lucas.
Who was she giving the? Really, what was she? She was a social dissident. What was she? She was a rebel, because she's from a wealthy priestly family. Who were the priests then? They were tzdukim, the Sadducees, as they call them. And what were they doing? They were completely corrupt.
Her family was punished after this. That she said.
And they were completely corrupt. And for them, the temple was religion. And religion was how you... It's sort of like, said a friend of mine not long ago, that his father, who came out of Russia, he looks at the rabbis and says, what are they? They're all corrupt. They're all liars. They're all cheats. What are they doing? Nothing all day, and they expect us to give them money. What's that good for?
I shouldn't add this, but that's when JC came in and said,
Nachon,
the whole thing, like, you threw
Right,
the
right.
money letters out and
Right,
said,
right,
you're
right.
all corrupt. So there was some truth in that.
Nachon.
I mean,
But you're on the wrong side of the fence.
yeah. That's out of the fence.
No, he
Oh,
and
yeah.
she, they're on the wrong side because they're like rebels. But instead of understanding that the solution is not to destroy the temple, Chas v'Shalom, the solution is to teach Torah, the Torah that was being built then by the Torah Shebaal Peh that was being built by the Chachamim, by the Prushim, and that it takes time for people to understand. So it takes time, they'll understand. So really, what was saved? Yavnei v'Chachamei, only the Sanhedrin were saved, only the Prushim were saved. The people they say they sold out, they didn't sell out. They were trying to save what could be saved. And this thing of destroy the temple because it's terrible, how corrupt it is, that's not the right direction. Hashem decided in the end that that was the right direction, but you're not allowed to ask for that. So in any case, so the altar consumes, but it consumes in order to nourish. It says the Yesod takes from all the Sfirot above, but it does so in order to nourish. What is it nourishing?
All the rest of it.
Everything back.
It's back.
That's interesting. It's not only nourishing the Malchus, but it's nourishing back to everything above it. It takes it and it cooks it. It's called. It cooks the food, and then it gives back nourishment to the rest of the body, to the rest of what there is. So this is a very interesting thing here. What would be the that's an allegory. What's it talking about? It says that if you have confidence, what's it for? So if you say it's to waste things, I need the confidence to aggrandize myself. I'm going to take everything there is in the world. I'm getting confident about my success and succeed, and it's all to aggrandize myself. That's a wolf. But the rectified wolf, Binyamin, what he consumes, what he's successful with is in order to nourish the world. That he sees the confidence as a means to fixing the world, to rectifying, to nourishing back where I got my success. Those things that went into my success, because I have a shlichus to do. I'm not doing it for my self-aggrandizement. And you can go across the board, 100%. Check one after another. Any goy or somebody who doesn't come from Torah, and I would say even if he hasn't learned Chassidus, and check their teachings about success and self-confidence. And you'll see, you'll hear it in the words that it's all about self-aggrandizement. It's all about your success.
I've been Yemen. I forgot or missed it.
Okay, so that will need to, that's a bigger topic, but basically because he's the lower tzaddik. Yosef is a higher tzaddik, we'll see, and he's the lower tzaddik. Yosef, what we're talking about, I think we talked about a little bit, Yosef is always a new line, always. He's not allowed to continue, he's like, he can't continue the same line for, he can't have hope in what already exists. He has to do his own thing entirely new always. He can't build himself on what's already been done. He's always a new story.
So how would you translate ad here, V'boker yochel ad?
Pray is right, but again, the point here is that it's nourishing. Adei ad, until it itself becomes nourishment. It's like Shimshon's his riddle. Ha'ochel ne'echal ve'aya lema'achal. I don't remember exactly how he says
The
it.
Shimshon from
The,
Binyamin.
what?
Shimshon from Binyamin.
Shimshon is from Dan.
Done.
So he says, he told the Philistines here, if you can solve my riddle, then I can. So one of the riddles was that he found a carcass of a lion. First of all, he fought the lion, then he killed it, and then the carcass became the home for a beehive. And so he came back a few months later, he took honey from the hive and he ate it. So he called it Aochel Ne'echal. That what was eating, consuming others before, became itself food. Why is that impossible why is that so hard to understand? There's a lot of if you shoot a bear in the forest and eat it. So
Right.
why is it so hard to understand? Because the Philistines knew he was a Jew. What do Jews not eat?
There.
Carnivores. So what could eat and become food itself? What could eat other things, other animals, and still become
The
food
bee.
for you? What?
Only a bee?
It's the only thing that no. The lion here was. If I would just kill a lion, can't eat it.
Can't eat it.
So they couldn't imagine how a carnivore suddenly became a source of food for a Jew. So that's why it was so hard for them to get the riddle.
Yeah, I'd be hard.
So are these personalities then? There's Yosef personalities and
So the Yosef personality is somebody who's in Atzilus. He always has to bring down a new line. He can't use anything that
So
can't
only
use any of the
tzaddikim-
tools he
only tzaddikim
finds.
can be Yosef?
What?
Only tzaddikim can be Yosef?
Only
Or-
very
Atzilus
very
tzaddikim?
few types of tzaddikim can be
Really?
Yosef. And everybody else should be a tzaddik like Binyamin. And everybody else is tzaddik tachton, it's called, lower tzaddik. And lower tzaddik is like Binyamin.
Did the Rebbe want Yosef people?
No, so what we said is that sometimes you're shipwrecked and you have to be like Yosef. You have no choice. But by Yosef, it wasn't that there's no choice. It's l'chatchila that way. So, for instance, the Alter Rebbe, he had to l'chatchila. He couldn't build on what the Maggid had established already. He couldn't use what was already there. He had to start something new.
But he says in his books, he's so humble. He says it's all.
He's not just humble, he's much more than that. He really did. The Torah is still the same Torah, but the tools that I'm going to use, they're completely new.
Well, he was sent into the world like
Because
that.
he says.
Okay? Maybe something
And what
new.
is the lower tzaddik do?
The lower tzaddik is like a regular person.
So
That there is nourishment here. There is what to work with, but turn it into success in order to provide nourishment for others. And Yosef also, he's a mashbir lechol haaretz. He gives nourishment to everybody. But Yosef can't use what he finds. He has to create a new reality that nobody had before. Nobody saw before.
That's what the Alter Rebbe did.
Okay, so the Alter Rebbe was that type of tzaddik. Okay, so we'll end here for now, and we'll continue this next week.
That would be perfect.
Just in time.